Good morning, everyone. Good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are, and welcome to this week's weekly energy boost. My name is Elisheva, and today Eitan and I are together to share with you deep insights and also ancient techniques on thinking the right thoughts. Last week, Eitan mentioned that our consciousness is the thoughts we believe in, and that opens up a whole other series of books on important teachings and practices that the Kabbalists have given for using the way that we think to create, to build, rather than to break down or destroy. And given that we're in the month of Aries now, and our thoughts, especially in these first 12 days, have special impact, we want to make sure that everyone is guided and aligned with the highest consciousness possible to make the most out of the coming week. Weekly Energy Boost is a 7-day spiritual weather forecast where we provide our listeners with the most powerful and practical tools to navigate the coming 7 days from the ancient teachings of Kabbalah. So every episode ends up offering wisdom and tools, not only to help you extract the gifts from this week, but wisdom and tools that you can use any week of your year, any year of your life. And because we have that unique opportunity, this month is very much about planting seeds, looking at the seeds we've planted, how we're planting them. And really, in a way, that energy of spring allows us to look at the entire growth process for each one of us in a completely different way. And we want to ride that energy so that this week really changes not only the way we act, not only the way we feel, but really on at the root, which is how we think. So Eitan, where should we begin?
I think we should begin with how does the Zohar, the main book of Kabbalah, describe the energy behind thoughts. So the Zohar tells us that the root source energy is the endless light of the Creator, which is not formed with the thought. It's pure energy and undefined. And that's the endless, and then is defined by Keter, is the highest level of consciousness that closest to the endless light of the Creator without any form and definition. The first step, which is one level below Keter, which is the beginning and the seed of all manifestations, is thoughts. So basically, if you look at ourselves, thoughts, feelings, words, actions, physical reality, thoughts is the closest to limitless. With your thought, you can imagine something happened 20 years ago. You can imagine a future. You can imagine reality beyond logic completely. So it can travel beyond time and space. So the Zohar tells us, thoughts, it is the beginning of everything, correspond to that level called Chokhmah. From thoughts, feelings are produced, words, actions, and reality. If we truly trust that every positive energy in our reality, negative energy in our reality, destructive behavior in our physical reality, or constructive behavior in our reality, miracles in our reality, or chaos in our reality, it all stems from thoughts. Not just thoughts that we hear, thoughts that we attach ourselves, we believe in, either consciously, someone just told me something, and I say, wow, I'm less than them, and I'm attached myself, and I begin to believe in it. Or a thought of the Creator is with me, and I believe in it. So imagine if we truly acknowledge that the thoughts that I believe in are the seed of everything. All of us, at least, will sit in the gates of thoughts and ask question. Is it a thought that creating light and blessing? Or is it a thought that creates negativity of destruction? Our problem is because we live in a physical body and the five senses typically do not detect thoughts, so we give more importance when things manifest itself. Feelings manifest itself, good energy, bad energy, good reality, bad reality, needs, manifestation. Wow, it's important. The doctor said something. Wow, pay attention. Start to eat better. But imagine, and that's what we want to raise. What is raising consciousness? Raising consciousness is pause for a second. Thoughts is where everything is happening. Let's raise our consciousness to be in the gates of thoughts. All of us in the gates of reality. Feel good, not feel good. Let's elevate ourselves to be in the gates of thought, the garden of thoughts, especially in these 12 days. So in a garden, and any thought that I'm attaching myself, engaging in, that becomes energy, we are planting a seed in the garden of thoughts that manifests it into feeling, desires, actions, words, reality. So the next thing, and I would like to ask you, Elisheva, and then back and forth. Okay, so let's say I decided, wow, I get it. Thought energy, even though you don't feel powerful energy, is the seeds of all energies. Especially because it's not detected with the usual senses. Well, I want to pay attention, but how do you begin to differentiate good thought, bad thought, good seed, bad seed? So let's raise our awareness, because the ability to be the observer and to ask the right question, and especially if you catch yourself within the first minute of the thought that comes to you and you engage, you can do something about it. After you already attached to the thought, I'm less than, I'm worried about tomorrow, and you actually engage and worry and suddenly produce other thoughts and movies and concern from the past, then suddenly emotions appearing because that produced, then sometimes it's a little bit too late, half an hour late. You can still do something about it, but it's much more difficult. So first, for those of us who would love to be the observer and sitting at the gate and looking and want to observe the thoughts, what is some of the question to recognize where thoughts are coming from? Where would you start, Elisheba?
So this is something that I not only practice with myself, but I use quite often with my kids in helping them to pay more attention. For me specifically with them, and I'm bringing it up intentionally because I think we're all teenagers, we're all kids on some level, and we all fall prey to the same habits. The question I ask them is, where did I learn that? Where did you learn that? And how do I know that's true? Now, when you look at something like your own social media habits, or where you listen to the news or watch the news or read the news, the friend groups that you circulate in, what brings you together, what you share, even when you spend time with family or coworkers, without consciously noticing it, we all are inclined to absorb the things that we hear, right? So you can read an article, and this to me is one of the best examples. Years ago, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 years ago, there was an article that came out showing a Starbucks worker who was doing something political. And basically, the article said that Starbucks is either pro or anti, I don't even remember. The bottom line is that that month, Starbucks lost profits. And I share that with my kids also, and it was a really good, I think it's a lesson, a good analogy for the process that we go through. A bunch of people saw something, even though it was retracted, it was a employee wearing their uniform, not during work, like, whatever the misinformation was, it affected millions of people. And in thinking thoughts that we think are not negative, not harmful, not damaging, even though you said, Eitan, we don't have necessarily a sense or an organ to feel our thoughts. But what I notice personally, and again, I'm trying to instill that into my family, is if I listen to a certain narrative or if I'm exposed to a certain attitude, I can't help but be influenced by that attitude, even though it didn't bother me. I'm not so excited about it. It's not something I'm interested in, but there's a bit of a bias that begins. And that bias eventually, like you said, drills a hole and sits there and affects, we have a sign in our neighborhood that says, your mind is a garden, your thoughts are the seeds. Are you planting flowers or are you planting weeds? And that idea that when you find a weed, these kind of people are bad, this company is wrong, men crying is weak, all these different thoughts that we believe in, asking yourself, how do I know that's true? Where did I learn that? Really being curious, not feeling bad or ashamed or beating yourself up, because those, again, are thoughts that are, whatever the opposite of fertilizer is for the garden of your mind. Really thinking, questioning, how do I know that's true? Where did I learn that? And being curious about how those seeds got in there is the best method to unearth those seeds. And I think that, like you said, if it sits there 30 minutes, it might already begin to sprout. We need to pay attention. And to me, one of the indicators is sometimes I notice I'm drained. And I think to myself, how did I get here? Why am I irritated? Why am I was in a good mood before. How did I get so low feeling? And I backtrack and I realize, I listened to that, whatever it was, that voice note from that person complaining about this, or, oh, I started scrolling and I saw an article about being really interested in how our thoughts get there. I think is a big part of removing the thoughts that don't belong.
Like it very much. I like it very much. So another thing, the Zohar share with us that all thoughts divide to two categories. God's thoughts that our soul hear them all day long, and men's thoughts which stems from the limited me, the ego me, the lacking me. And one of the tools that helps me is asking whenever I have strong thoughts and right away feelings about a situation. So actually asking the question, what does the Creator wants me to think about this right now? I don't feel enough. I'm less than. I'm upset. I worry about tomorrow. I'm just keep hearing these thoughts. Pause 1 second. What does the Creator wants me to think about it? Is it a thought from the Creator? Just asking this question. So when I'm asking this question, it's pretty clear that I'm engaging in illusionary thought, reactive thought, worry thought, uncertainty thought, because think about it. The thoughts that are not coming from the Creator is reactive thoughts, judgmental thoughts, uncertain thoughts, feeling alone thoughts, lacking thoughts, I'm not enough thoughts, comparing thoughts, few thoughts about the future, thoughts about the past, limited thoughts, selfish thoughts, versus all the thoughts of the Creator And all the thoughts of my soul that align with the Creator and stems from the Creator is thoughts of that stems from desire to improve, desire to give, even desire to get clarity. I'm confused. It's okay that I'm confused. The Creator, please give me clarity in this particular area in my life. So I like the story of a guy that he really tried to work on himself spiritually, and he've learned the power of thoughts, and he realized he's bombarded with so many negative thoughts that affect his life in a negative way. He didn't know what to do about it. He didn't feel he has the power of it. It's too strong. So he went and he visited a Kabbalist. And he knocked at the door after he walked for many hours. He knocked at the door. And the Kabbalist looked at the guy from the second floor, the window of the second floor, said hi to him, but didn't open the door. And again, he knocked at the door again, like for 10 times. The guy slept outside the door of the house of the Kabbalist, and only in the morning the Kabbalist opened the door. He said, "Dear Kabbalist, Rabbi, I respect you, but why didn't you open the door for me?" The Kabbalist told him, he didn't have to ask him the question. In the same way, I had the choice to let you in or not. You have the choice to believe in the thoughts that come to your gate or not, to let them in or not. And that's the first thought we want to believe in. The first thought, when you believe the thought, I have no control over my thoughts. Yeah, based on your tikkun, you have bombarded with different thoughts, but what thoughts you let in, we all have more control. In the same way that Viktor Frankl, in his book Man's Search for Meaning, as going through the suffering and the torture as a Holocaust survivor, shared the ideas that between stimulus and response, you have a choice. In this particular case, stimulus is a thought comes my way. Response is, oh wow, I believe in it. No, I believe in it. I don't believe in it. I agree. We all have tikkun. We all have old patterns that we believe certain, especially old thoughts. By the way, whenever you keep hearing old insecure thoughts, old reactive thoughts, old judgmental thoughts, old poor me thoughts, you know it's not coming from the light. The old repetitive, you know it's not the Creator. Whenever thoughts bring you back to same old patterns, same old loop, thoughts, feeling, and it produce events, like, you know it's a deceiving, it's a lie. Yeah, but it's real, the issue is real. If it's repetitive thoughts that brings your energy down, the thoughts itself is a lie. And you know what the thoughts deceiving us? We think what brings me down is the potential dangers I'm afraid of. No, what brings you down is believing about the thought. It's not the actual dangers. How do you know? Look at your history. That thought that you believed in brought you down, brought you to fear, to anxiety, to not being present, to be overwhelmed. And 95 or 99 times out of those moments, nothing physical happened. So really, we have a choice. We're not perfect, but the fact that we're paying attention and we're deciding, you know what? I'm going to be there in the garden. As I see the plant, the seed is planted. Pause. I have a choice. I don't have to respond in the same way. I don't have to believe that lie. Truth is a thought that attached to the Creator that meant to bring long-term blessings for you and for others. It's another question. Is these thoughts will produce positive energy for me and for others? Now, let's say you heard somebody is about to destroy your business. And you're checking and you say, pause, okay, I want to check the facts. We're not saying, no, it's a negative thoughts. I don't want to. No. Actually, you pause and you decided, I would love to know the facts because that will help me and help the business and help my clients. So of course I would love to check the facts. We're not saying deny things you need to be improved in your life. Deny issue you need to fix internally or externally or medical issue. No, don't be negative. Nothing is medical. I don't care what the doctor said. That's not a positive thought. Thoughts from the light is anything that will help you to improve your life in a lasting way. Sometimes it means something is wrong with you now. You need to change something. Excuse me.
No, so you're bringing up a really important. I wanted to go there, and you went there anyway. I think when you're faced with a repetitive mindset, right? You're going there again. You know, you have a tendency when this person or a certain situation happens. This is where you go. Your mind goes to. In other situations, and again, we relate those consistent thought patterns to tikkun, to a certain transformation that my soul asked for me, is encouraging me to go through. That's one category. But sometimes we have thoughts, let's say we're at a party or a meeting or some sort of environment with people, and we get the thought, I don't like this person, or I don't feel good here, or this is not a good environment for me. Now, objectively, it sounds negative. How do we know in that moment that we're observing the seed? How can we distinguish between this is a message from my soul. My soul is telling me something here, either with the person or the environment is not aligned, and it's not the best place for me to be now, versus something in my ego doesn't like it. Something, I'm being triggered, and it's like I need to work on it, rather than it's a genuine information from my environment that will lead to long-term fulfillment. How do we make that distinction?
So that's a very good question. And by the way, that's the reason it is important to pay attention to our body and to our emotions. Because negative emotions from stress, negative stress, some stress is positive, but we're talking about negative stress or certain fears that takes over, or sadness that takes over, or hurt that takes over, are indications of thoughts. So while sometimes it's hard to detect thoughts, but because thoughts produce emotion, in our ultimate potential of who we are, in the ultimate potential of who we meant to be joyful all day long. If our thoughts, not just an idea, philosophy, our thoughts will be attached to the thoughts of the Creator, to the thoughts of our soul, to the thoughts of trust, to the thoughts of giving, to the thoughts of everything is for my best. If our energy would be totally attached to it, we would be joyful anytime. That's the reason it's important not to be controlled by my feeling, but to observe my feeling. Now, we're humans. All of us engage in negative thoughts. We all have storage of negative energy that needs to be cleansed. And sometimes observing the feelings and not reacting to the feeling, it's one of the way to actually cleanse all thoughts. But where your body is physically and emotionally It's a major indicator what thought was there. Rav Ashlag saying a powerful statement. If our thoughts were constantly to attach to the Creator, and we let go of my own selfish needs for temporary fulfillment and temporary relief, and everything that we want just to connect with the Creator for the sake of sharing, we'll be free of pain in this world. None of us are there, but that's our destiny. That's our potential. Suffering, it's a cause of reactive, selfish, negative thoughts we attach ourselves to, we believe in.
So is there one thing that we can be mindful of or do differently this week that will help us embrace this practice? Shifting our thoughts?
I think the fact that we are heightening our awareness of the power of the thoughts. So, as you said, Elisheva, your mind is a garden. Your mind is a garden. It's not just a thought. Now, I'm anxious. Wow, I had many thoughts. That's by itself the game of the ego and the game of the opponent within us. So the fact that you're asking in a positive way multiple times a day, is it thought from the light? Is it thought of light, seed of positivity, or is it seed of poison in my life? Just ask that. And then when you notice it's not just disconnect from that lie. Disconnect from that lie. The Zohar tells us every lie has some truth in it. A thought will use some truth in why I'm concerned, in why I'm fearful. But what makes it a lie? In a long term, it produces negativity. It means it's a lie.
I love that. That's so helpful because I think that the emphasis on how is this thought affecting me in the long term is a great way to measure the source of that thought. So thank you for that.
Especially we all have history that certain thoughts, we know what's the end result of those thoughts. It's proven today that engaging in certain thoughts cause disease and sicknesses.
And the other side of the coin, changing those thoughts, replacing them with light-filled thoughts can create healing as well.
Healing and miracles, absolutely. This is the month of miracles. We're still in the month of miracles.
Right. Let's do it. Weekly Energy Boost is available on all podcast platforms, YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. You can follow us on those platforms to receive even more content, to live what we share in every episode. You can also go to weeklyenergyboost.com to search through our archives, send us a message, and support Weekly Energy Boost by clicking the donate button. But as always, you're sharing this episode, rating us, giving a review, commenting. That's really what helps us reach more individuals and ultimately fulfill the goal of changing the world. So we'll see you next week on the Weekly Energy Boost.